Back in the house. Been in the house all day. We were out on the water yesterday, so we got a few things to talk about. So, to start the show off, let me get back over here. Let's talk about our Whopper Plopper challenge that finally took place. The video, if you watched it, it just dropped today. Go back and watch it. I was going to start out, before I even had this bait, to do a little, just the start of the Whopper Plopper versus Choppo challenge, and I couldn't get either one of these to get a hit. Matt caught one on, I forget what, I think he may just had the black, the loon or whatever, smaller Whopper Plopper, maybe the size of this, but anyway, I think he managed one, then switched to Popper. I'm sure it was probably the Pop Max, but he was catching little dinks, so I just abandoned all the topwater, and that video never took place. So we went on to it was kind of a junk fishing. I was trying all different kinds of stuff, and Jay had asked in the comments of what bait. I never felt confident in any bait I was throwing it would catch a bigger fish other than when I was throwing that peanut butter and jelly jig. I did feel if it got hit, it would be a little bit bigger fish, but then I ended up catching a dink with it later on, so it was just one of those days on that video. But then there's a video dropping tomorrow from Saturday morning. Front was kind of there. It was kind of raining, not raining, and then we were basically in front of a little front coming through, and we got out, did some topwater footage, and then had to abandon ship again, and then got back out for a couple more hours, and then that video will drop in the next day or so. So, I'll give you a quick rundown on the results. They're even, pretty much, for me. The way I fish a Whopper Plopper, or now the Choppo, I cannot go out there and tell you that this one does anything better than the original, or that the original does anything better than this one. Other than, at any given day, there are different colors, like they're not identical in the colors. And the two that I have that are the 130 size, it's a 120 Choppo, are kind of a transparent bellied one. They're not the whitish colored one. And so in that video, I actually use this big dude also. You'll find that I managed to catch a fish on the big one. And I still say this type of color, or this color, is probably what, for me, the waters I'm fishing this season anyway, that seems to be the color. If you guys remember right, Charles, when you can get on them on a Whopper Plopper of any size, for me anyway, it seems like the bite will kick in with that kind of color. But we did go out, and I think the first fish I managed to catch, I transferred back and forth between these two a few times, and then managed to catch him. I had to throw it up tighter, almost where, honestly, a Whopper Plopper was probably the second choice. The first choice probably would have been to throw like a Pop Max or some kind of popper up tighter and, work it out. But we managed to start catching fish on them. So in the video and the way it was edited, and the way I ended up fishing until the rain came, it probably will look like the Choppo won that, because while I was doing the little challenge, I was alternating between these two, and then I briefly put this one in just to see if it would get hit also, and I managed to, I don't remember how many, but I caught roughly the same amount on any given one except for this one, but I didn't throw it as much as these two. But then when I was pretty much done, and I did a little outro, but we were fishing basically until the rain come, I just was throwing the Choppo. So it's going to look like the Choppo, which it caught more fish, but it's going to look like it, was far ahead of these two maybe in the video. But it was because I had this on the blade, the P5 blade, and was just, it was kind of small fish of what we're hitting it anyway, until the last one before the rain really started coming. The bite really kicked on. I threw this out, and a little dink jumped on it, and then a bigger one jumped in. And I've talked about it several times before. I think it was the fact that the little one hit it is what made that big one attack. Otherwise, he may not have even went in for the kill, so to speak. So we did manage 2 fish on this, so I can't knock this bait at all. A lot of you guys have commented on it. It is a little bit cheaper, but I will still have to say that, is it better than a Whopper Plopper? No. Now, that was just the first of a many videos I plan on. I'm just going to be out throwing these two basically at any given time, or this one. In all honesty, I think what I've talked about doing it, I should probably buy the rest of these in this color, even though I've got a knockoff little one. So technically I got the gamut covered, like little, gigantic. But I should probably go ahead and buy this color in every size they make, possibly even that color, because I guarantee you that color and this color are, in my opinion, the top two colors. This used to be my favorite color, and it's still a very good color, but I think there's a few other colors that just maybe are better nowadays. They've had a few. There's one, the monkey butt, Yoda. There's a few others in this. I do not like, honestly though, I don't know if I've ever bought the bigger ones and thrown them, but the bone color in the Whopper Plopper, it just seems too yellow to me. At one time I did have a AliExpress knockoff of one of these that was a very yellow one, and I did not do very well with it. So anyway, you guys can comment what you think if you have a favorite Whopper Plopper style. I have not tried any of the others. I've never tried anything other than this one because this one just always has worked, or a smaller size. But which I knew what would happen. This one, if I still feel if they're going to hit a Whopper Plopper or a Choppo of this size, they'll hit one or the other, or they'd even hit one of the Guggen ones, or So it'll come down, in my opinion, on longevity, is like how long will they last, what kind of hooks do they come with right off the bat. These hooks don't seem bad, but if you were definitely on a bigger fish bite, they're definitely smaller than what the Whopper Plopper 130 comes with. So you do stand a chance of straightening these before you would with the true Whopper Plopper. Now I did switch these out. What's funny is I was just looking today, and that's what I was telling Olivia this. I'm like, I didn't even know this. I've never even seen this video. I was watching a Tactical Bassin old video where they were talking about this bait, and that was one of the first things he talked about, is like, the big hooks will catch them, but you might want to switch. So, and I talked about that when I first got this. When I looked at those huge honking hooks, I was like, oh my God, they'll like tear my fish up. I'm not going to catch any, 8 to 10 pounders on a regular basis. So I'm going to be catching, if you'd be surprised at the one, wait till you watch the video, the size of fish that hit this thing. So I downsized from the whatever comes stock on the Whopper Plopper 190 to the hooks that come on the this guy right here, because this is a bait, as we're going to jump into swim baits here in a minute. I thought I'd like this bait. It seems very well made, and just the way I just am not a fan of this, but I like the hooks. I took the hooks off and put them on the Whopper Plopper for now. I don't know if I'm going to I may just put the Whopper Plopper hooks on this, and I don't even know how much I'll throw this. I'll be honest, when I'm out here throwing these two, and there's a size for reference, that's basically the size of hooks I took off and put on that big Whopper Plopper. And I feel that bait right there will get me fish and get bites before this guy will. Size-wise, they're really not that different, but I've thrown this one and that white one, I don't know how many different times now. Not a ton, but more than I've thrown this one. No hits, no bites. Already caught, I want to say I caught 2 bass. I think I got one on the footage. Maybe I missed one hit at it, which is probably just a little dink that, the hook's totally missed him kind of thing. But anyway, I do not have any confidence in my waters yet, that unless I'm fishing this wrong, maybe I need to not have the bill in. I've tried it both ways, but I've tried it more with the bill in, just barely creeping it like it creates a big wake, but if you go real slow, it's not as menacing. I figured something would jump up and hit it on either one, but so far nothing on those. But the big Whopper Plopper did get hit. Now, how much will I fish it? I don't know, because I feel you can get a very big bass to come out and hit these, this, what I call the standard size, the big one, the 130. And this is a 120. The 110 is actually probably the closest made like this. The 110 Whopper Plopper isn't quite as torpedoed. It's got a little bit more of a belly to it like this, which this one does also, so it won't have the tendency to roll as much once they get smaller. So yeah, be looking forward to future ones, but the Whopper Ploppers are awesome baits. The Choppo seems like it's an awesome bait. Can't knock it at all. I can't say that one over the other. I feel any one of these I put on, actually, possibly for the color, that one maybe, if I would have fished them like just the rain wouldn't have ran us off, and I would have just kept alternating in between whichever one. This one may have ended up winning because of the color. but I feel this one was right there with it, and I feel this one, for whatever reason, I don't know if it was the orange up front, I had a few more dinks hit at this. I didn't even, I don't think it's in the footage, and I never even hooked up on them. But they all seemed to get about the same amount of attention once I started throwing them. But like I said, once I caught either one or two, I think maybe it was two on this, I'd already pretty much decided when I was throwing, alternating them, I could throw one, catch a fish, throw the other one, catch a fish, throw the other one, and I'm like, yeah, they seem to be doing about the same thing. So then I just, like I said, I finished off that little morning deal working back up to the truck, and you'll see in the videos the rain started coming down. I just basically, after that double up, I just stopped and went, okay, that's good, like, because I couldn't figure, I was like in a hurry. I never even got a true picture of my phone. I wanted to get a pic of those two, stuck together on the same bait. I had to take one off of the footage that's on the header of the video, but I had to hurry up and figure out how to get them unhooked and get back up to the truck. Still got a little wet, but not too bad. I threw on my emergency poncho. It was no big deal, and it wasn't that cold or anything. And then we came out and went on a tear, so I wanted to talk about that also. I took some time out and I was throwing these different swim baits, so let's jump to a little swim bait here. So here is basically AliExpress copy of the TK, the Tiny Clash. It's a 165 millimeter bait. I forget exactly what it weighs, 85 grams. I don't remember, but it's basically the copy of the size. This is kind of an in-between. It's 185 millimeters. I don't think that DRT makes any size. It's a copy of their bait, but they made their own size on whoever copied these baits. And then this bigger one is a copy of the Clash 9, I believe. So the white one, and I don't know why, this one does not seem to work quite as well as that white one I have. Like, I feel I can throw it out and I can get it down how to work it real fast. I feel this one, I almost have to watch how I'm working it. I don't know if it's a vision thing, like I can't see it as good as I can the white one. And I want to weight these to where I don't want them to sink because I don't want to lose them, but I want them to, like, when they hit the water and if I start pulling them and they go down a little bit, I don't want them to just pop back up. Like, they're coming up too fast, in my opinion. Now, when there's a topwater deal going on, that's probably okay. So I've got some weights coming. I'm gonna weight them just enough to where they, in my opinion, truly like suspend in a very slow rise, if anything. So, and we've kind of figured out, we got our line rigged up, but this one is one that I did catch fish of the day on this dude. Now, what we were doing, we were basically out there throwing to fish that were chasing. They were hitting top surface bait fish out in kind of the middle. And I managed to get this one out there and catch a big fish. We were doing the same thing with like almost any bait you threw, like a little square bill. If you saw them busting up out there, if you threw something out there, you could get the dinks. They were little dinks. But then when I managed to throw this one out there, I was trying with the bigger baits. I tried with several other swim baits. This is the only one that brought in truly a bigger fish. And I kind of like that color, but I want to get a bass color in that size. And at the rate things are going, even though I have the tequila back rack, this is probably the size swim bait I'm going to be throwing more than even the little dinky ones or the big ones. Because I feel that this one, I can throw it. The tequila back rack has no problem throwing these. This thing, it flings it out. I actually hit the bank a few times with this one. I misjudged how far I could throw it, and it shaped like a torpedo. It cast almost like a torpedo. You can fling that out there with the tequila back rack. You can cast these about as good, but they don't sail quite as easy. And if it starts a twirly burden thing, it honestly, it's heavy enough. It doesn't really backlash the reel or anything, but it does slow down your distance. They kind of splash louder, create more of a disturbance. And honestly, like if you're down in Florida, Texas, further south than us, and a bigger class of fish, I could easily see where these would be the bait of choice, this size. If you're going to, go big or go home when you're truly after some big fish. But for the fish around here, that's probably a big enough to get the bigger ones to commit to it. It's still going to catch the little ones, That's not that big of a bait. It's a good chunk. It should get their attention. So unless I just feel there's gigantic ones, or possibility, or I just get bored, you probably won't see me living on these. I've got another one coming in a bass color. I'll probably more or less, this one and the white one will be just, I'm not saying I won't throw them, but I'm not going to be living on that because I've already felt like I kind of, just even on Saturday, once I put the topwater stuff up, I went out there with Charles, he was in his kayak, and I had Olivia with me, and I had her rigged up with one of these little dudes. Now, she wasn't catching anything big, but the fish biting ratio compared to all the other, I was trying a little bit of everything, but mainly swim bait type stuff or bigger baits. She flat tore them up on that dude here in a 1/4 ounce. This is a 3/8. So I had her with that 1/4 ounce one, basically the same trailer though, and she was just like, I mean, it was insane. Pretty much every cast. Once we got on them, where we figured out, it was kind of a sprinkle. The weather had them fired up, the dinks anyway. So I was thinking, well, I'll let her catch the dinks, and I'll try to get, some of these bigger fish. But other than that one bigger fish, and then the one that we caught that kind of committed on this once the little one hit it, that there was no big bites. Charles, I don't think he caught anything that was, I don't even know if he caught anything that was over 1.5 pounds. And so they were kind of hitting, but nothing big. We pulled a few big ones out, and then it was last week. Kind of went back to the same place for redemption because that's where Charles missed the big one that jumped up and spit the peanut butter and jelly. So when I first got out on the water with Olivia, I rigged her up with the peanut butter and jelly, and she proceeded to just start whacking them like Charles was the week before. But then, I don't know, she just was like, you got anything else? She wanted like something different. I think she got tired of like rigging the worm up after every little dink, which she was catching them right and left. So I gave her that. I think I may have even given her a little white one first, a little micro chatterbait with a little Meredith white, kind of crappie colored white swim bait on it. But then I'm like, here, try this. Like, I know these little things work. And I threw the big blade a little bit, but that dude, for numbers of fish that still will get a big one to whack it, it's hard to beat this little mini max. Now you could do the same thing on a budget with just the mini. They sell for like 3.8. It's cheaper than the original chatterbait. These are a little more money. The big blades are even more money. But these are like $7.99. The big blades like $10.99 or something like that. In all honesty, especially if you kind of like to buy your own skirts and change colors around a little bit, you can get these colors. You can get a bluegill color if you like doing that. So you could easily get, whether you're buying a Z-Man original, you're buying the micro if you want to throw it on lighter stuff, get the little minis or micros and kind of come up with your own skirting deals. It would be a cheaper alternative. I just definitely, out of all the newer stuff that's come out, I would buy this one more. I don't plan on buying any more jackhammers, period. But the little mini max, even the big blade, just for what it is, I feel it's that the 1/2 ounce one, it rides up higher. You can keep it going real slow, but it's setting up there. So around the shallower, grassy, just real shallow water, real skinny water, you know what I mean? Dirt shallow, some people call it. That big blade is probably still hard to beat. But the mini max you can get in 3 different sizes. That's one thing I like about that. But you could also kind of do the same thing where the mini max will go over the original mini one. Is it only comes in I believe it's 1/4 ounce. So the micro is eighth ounce, I think. And then you can get the flashbacks or whatever in a 1/16. But the mini max does come in 1/4, 3/8, and a 1/2 ounce. So if you're wanting something smaller but yet can get down deeper, running, kind of still at some speed, then this one, the fact it comes 3 different weight sizes to that blade. But I like the lightest head possible with the biggest blade to give. It just lets the thing, when you're going slow and then give it a quick reel turn, it'll let it jump a little bit. I've talked about that several times. So that 1/4 ounce one she had was on fire for sure. Now another bait I want to talk about real quick, and it's on the very cheap spectrum. Like, You can't even touch this bait really with AliExpress cheap baits. That's probably where this is coming from, China, but it's coming out of Walmart. That's that color that Charles showed up with that day until he destroyed it, like it tore his skirt to pieces. It's just like $1.50 or maybe even less. I don't know. It's a very cheap, one of those cheap baits from Walmart. Definitely gets hit. I started throwing it, got hit right off the bat, but then my skirt started falling apart. So I'm like, I just stopped using it. I'm like, I'm going to wait till I... So what I did was I hand tied the skirt with red thread and then super glued it. And I don't even think it matters if the purple's on top or the brown's wherever. Just that color. If you guys can make out that color, it's kind of that greenish and brown with the purple. Just gets bit. That bait just, it's a smaller... I kind of like to keep it a little tighter so you can, it gets down. It's a pretty light bait. It's not very heavy. But it's not a bad bait. It will get bent almost every fish. So they're not going to last forever. But for the price, and I probably ought to just track them down and buy a dozen of them. It's definitely got cheaper hardware. The only downside to this bait, I can't feel it going through, you know, just on a standard slow retrieve. I can't feel it doing much, any thumping or anything. That's where I like the Z-Man ones I've been using, and the SV3 Megabass knockoffs come from AliExpress. I love them because they're not like a chatterbait, but they're not far from how you can fill a Mini Max or some of those micros and mini chatterbaits. You can feel it moving. So when something, whether it touches grass or a stump, or you know, when anything happens, you can tell because it'll change on what you're feeling. Where some of these regular spinner baits I don't like over a chatterbait because I feel you're less connected, and by the time you do feel something, sometimes it's too late. It's already gotten into the grass, or you know, something's happened to where, I don't know, I guess I'm kind of like that control freak. I like to know what my bait's doing on the other end. That's why I probably like chatterbaits over anything, and square bills. That's why I like some of these swim baits. You fill your rod. It lets you know, like, every time it makes it's at one sweep to the next, and some of these don't do that. But anyway, this, if you guys can go to Walmart and you find that in that color, I could almost promise you it will get bit on your waters, because there's almost nowhere we haven't gone yet anyway where that color's not getting bit. May not be everywhere all the time, but it'd be worth just spending a few bucks and putting a couple of these in your tackle box. I would recommend, if you don't have to do this hand tying thing, but I would recommend the first thing you do is when you get them is put some super glue that, you know, it comes with these is what was on it. I pulled them off. You know, at least super glue that on, or trust me, that's going to be, after, it doesn't take that many fish to just, that thing's going to start loosening up. These strands will start pulling out and it'll get funky on you. So I would at least glue it on or do the hand tie thing, and then it should last for, you know, quite a while, quite a few fish. All right, what else? So I don't know when or where I'm going to start doing any of this selling off stuff. I just got too much stuff going on now to mess with it. So we've got a few reels. We've got a couple hundred baits to get rid of. I'm pretty sure that I've weeded these guys out of my box. So I don't think I'm going to even be throwing those. I don't know if I want to give them another chance or not. They're just kind of big and obnoxious, and I feel I'm already starting to waste my time messing around with some of these bigger baits, because I'm definitely not going to be a swim bait guy. I can already tell you that. I like, if all that's hitting is dinks, I'll get on a dink hit, and I need to start implementing my BFS stuff, you know, more to where if that's all that's hitting, throw it, and then occasional, you know, throw the bigger stuff here and there, whether it be a jig or a smaller swim bait or something, just looking for a bigger bite. So this big obnoxious dude that I gave 10 bucks for, he's probably gonna be weeded out also. And there's a few more that will too. This little dude and that little bass looking dude. Those wakey type baits, I've never been a wake bait fan. I'm a Whopper Plopper, buzz bait, then a popper, then I kind of go to spinner baits or chatter baits. I feel if they're not on the surface real active. And then also these baits right here. Even the smaller they get, I feel they work better as a true, like, surfacey type wake bait. That's how Charles caught a few in those baits I sold him, because I already sold some of these to Charles. But that littlest size, will probably, and these also will, you know, if you hold the rod tip up and you don't worry about trying to get them down. I don't weight a couple of these. I feel they have a better chance of getting hit than what this bigger one would, and the profile isn't that far off, you know what I mean? It's still a bigger thing. So anyway, that's probably what you'll see is these kind of being thrown with some of those natural colored ones I have, or natural sized, you know, that are more of the traditional swim bait, you know, styles, I guess. But that could all change. Like I said, I just still very new into going like, and I'm not going full swim baiting, but you know, giving the swim bait world a shot. But I'm gonna try to implement which ones fit where into my overall bass fishing, from the high end of these swim baits, big whopper ploppers, down to my little micro, not the mini, even the little micro, and the, you know, stuff that true BFS gear. And I'm not even really gonna say like, when I'm in my boat, you probably won't see me go BFS fishing unless I'm trying to put together a little video, but I will just be fishing with the BFS gear, so to speak, you know, to throw lighter baits, like finesse fishing or whatever you'd want to call it. When I go true BFS fishing, it will probably be little creek or stream or something with Charles, or a very small pond or something like that occasionally. So anyway, anybody got any questions? Ice Cream Jesse says, heck yeah, just catching them on the smoke Whopper Plopper. Yeah, I just don't have the room. I would really like to try a few more colors of Whopper Ploppers, but, or, well, probably not the Choppo. I think that's the only color I really liked in the Choppo, but I do like that color. I like that, that is almost a very bony type color. It's on the belly, like that color when it's not the whole bait, I feel is, I don't know, that's a pretty good, I like that color. I definitely, as of right now, I would say I like the color more so than I even like the bait. I feel this isn't made as well as a Whopper Plopper for overall durability. Like I feel 100 fish in, 100 fish in, this one's going to have more wear and tear, just how this feels. I'm not saying it still won't be catching fish. I don't know for sure, but like this one, I don't know. And it could be, I guess it's not that big a deal. If I think though this could be an issue. I think this is made a little harder. Like it's, I think it'll hold its shape, but these are actually very good about holding their shape. And if they do ever get out of whack where you feel they're not plopping, they're pretty easy to get back to straight. Like a lot of people talk about you can boil them, but honestly all you got to do is get them in the shape you want them. Like set them somewhere. If you feel this got pushed up, pull it back, set it on something, and just give it, I don't know, till the next time you go fishing. A lot of times it's right back where, you know, it'll do the whopper plopping sound. So I've never felt like these get ruined by being in your box, even though that is a pretty soft, so it's not going to like snap off or have anything. I feel this one, if you cast it and it hit right, maybe not, but it almost feels like it's, I don't know. We'll just have to see longevity of these, but right off the bat, unless there's an issue with wear on one of them, or the newer ones aren't as made as durable as the old ones, which they look like they are. They look like they're made about the same way. Maybe made identical to how they've always been, is what it looks like. So they should last forever, right? What's funny is though, they do, once you get up here in this realm, these are like casting little baby stuff. Like, so with the Super Destroyer, I can zing these out like no problem. I can flick and throw this stuff. Actually, this bait, no problem. This bait on the, I can throw it on the Super Destroyer if I wanted to, but then it starts feeling a little heavy. But you get the tequila back rack out there throwing this, which it casts a mile of this. Kind of feels like what these baits do, maybe on the Super Destroyer, a touch heavier. But when you start flinging big baits, and then you go to like a Whopper Plopper 130, this instantly becomes like a little baby bait. Like you're like, oh, that's a little bitty dude. And I remember when these first came out, how huge I thought that thing was. But it kind of gives you a different perspective. But you got to also listening to what the fish are telling you. If you're throwing something big and they ain't hitting it, keep going down. If you're throwing something real little and you're getting little dinks, you know, you might want to work your way up and try to find a bigger bite, or abandon all that together and go on a different bait and try to look for a bigger bite kind of thing. But if you're having fun and all you're there to do is have fun, no matter what size you're throwing, you know, keep throwing it. So yeah, and I have found out that I like these things. I used to just pop these off any bait I got and toss them away. But now that I've got these bigger baits, and I just toss them in that one bigger Tupperware deal I got at Walmart, it's like way easier to manage stuff, throw them in. You don't have to worry about them getting caught and scratching up all the paint and all that, which this one's already got a little damage. That's from fishing. It got, like I said, I started putting it through its paces. I hit the bank for sure once. Like I was like, oh boy. And then I think I hit like so shallow that it hit hard, like, you know, in the water another time. And then I had, I want to say I caught two. You'll see one for sure. I know one made the footage. And I think I caught another little one. And then I had another slap at it. So it surprised me. I was like, this thing ain't going to get hit by nothing. So it surprised me what just this size of bait will still bring in. And I give that some of that to the, just that color is a good color. So if that's it, I got to get out of here. Hopefully you guys like that. Watch the video that drops tomorrow. It'll be 7 a.m. here in the, you know, Central Mountain Standard, whatever time. So some of you guys on the east, I don't even know how it switches now, but it'll be 6 a.m. and others it'll be 8 a.m. And I'm not even sure, you guys, I don't even know when the best time to drop a video is. I know that sometimes the weekends, those videos end up, for whatever reason, they don't get that many views on the weekends, and it carries over that through the week they don't get the views. And sometimes midnight, when I just put it on to where as soon as it's done, it's gonna, you know, go on to the YouTube, and those will go crazy like somebody overseas at that time. That everybody's getting up, so a bunch of people watch them. So I don't know when the best time to actually drop a video is. So I kind of just started doing it on like a 7 a.m. So even though I've watched it and watched it before, I can watch it again if there's any issues. I'm like, oh boy, I forgot something or left. I can take it down and switch it if I needed to, kind of deal. So anyway, get out, get you guys some swim baits, get some jigs, skirts, stuff like that. As I get out of here, I did want to talk real quick that so far a letdown for me, and it's not a big deal, but I thought I would have a lot more luck since I put a little more time into it. It's something I've sort of tried in the past, but my swim jig game is just not where I feel it should be. So I feel, and honestly, these haven't really proved me wrong. I feel you can take almost any jig and swim it. Like, it'll swim, you know, don't let it hit the bottom. Just swim it along, and depending on whatever you have on it, doesn't really matter head size, that they will possibly get hit. So I've been doing that some of that with like just a little, but this one has an underspin. I still think I got a little too much skirting right there on the bottom. I need to let that thing spin. Now I've caught a few fish on it. I think I've yet to catch a fish on this one. And that is a Largo Shad. I'm going to try them. I tried it on the back of this, and I want to say I tried it on something else, and I don't know if I'm a fan. Probably going to stick with, hopefully Big A's gets us some different baits in those creature double flapper ones, and get some more swim baits in a couple different colors, hopefully. Because at some point, I would like to, if anything else, just start primarily using him to get, like, basically my trailers for swim jigs, well, any of my skirted baits, then my spinner baits, chatter baits, stuff like that. If he can come up with a couple good colors, and maybe even like a little custom color that I kind of came up with along with him, and on certain few colors I like, because as of right now, this is still my favorite color. But you can only get it in the Strike King. You can get close on a couple others with a couple other kind of skirts, but that Baby Rage Menace and that green pumpkin with the gold and purple fleck, metal flake, whatever. That thing just seems to be money on the back of any bluegill type thing. So what I did, I don't even know what I put it. I made this like more of a swim jig. I mean, you can kind of bounce it off the bottom, but it's got a little underspin. And so I did make, I don't even know where I put it. I know I haven't fished it yet. Well, it's somewhere. I've got a more of a bottom bouncing bluegill one made up. I'm anxious to try it out. But if I had to pick a color, even over black and blue so far this year, it would be a bluegilly color. And it probably will shut down, and it should go to maybe some other color, like our greens or our orangish crawdad colors, maybe. But I'm still working on refining that stuff. But it's hard to beat all of the, those spinnerbaits I talked about, or chatterbaits, and square bill game has still been, for me, the 1.5 and down. The 1.0 is still my favorite square bills. Because I don't really go out just square bill fishing. I kind of use it as a backup to something else. Like if I feel that, I'll throw it after I've thrown chatterbaits, spinnerbaits, maybe even rattle traps. Like then go a little further out, a little faster with the rattle trap. Then if I'm like, okay, well, I need to figure out something to kind of go finessey with the crank, or anytime I see a lay down and I feel like a moving bait going across it, or I'm not ready to throw a jig down in it or something yet. So I do feel there's a time and place for square bills, but I don't really go out with a 2.5, a 2.0, and a 1.5, and a 1.0 and a 0.5 and just try to spend all day with square bills. I've never really, I like to put them in there in where I feel where they go. And for me, a 1.0 square bill that does not get caught in the wood and that I can kind of feel what it's doing, like the Dig It is the one that's worked the best for me over the years, but this new ATV seems like right there, maybe with it. And unfortunately, it's about like the Dig It. You splash it too hard or do too much with it, you can break the bill off of. But you can tickle it across the tops of grass, you can run it right through the wood, and you can just, it's right around there in that right depth range to where it'll cover everything shallower that I feel my half-ounce rattle trap starts struggling, where I can't go slow enough where it's going to be getting in problems. So I would use a square bill there, rattle trap out here, and of course a chatterbait up in here, maybe here, and then spinner baits could also fit in there anywhere, and just cover that with my moving type stuff. Then I go with the soft plastics or the jigs or something once I feel I need to slow down. And it's usually, and I probably go back to just a shaky head with the zinkers on it, and then some of these different size jigs, and then the wobble head, of course, like the biffle head, just throwing it out there. I like using it when I feel it's a more finessey, but it's still, I want to move it faster. I feel I can move those maybe a little faster than you would a jig. Once you get into other than a swim jig, you're kind of swimming it more higher up, I guess, in the water column, but you can almost do the same thing with that biffle thing down, bouncing off the bottom, but moving it. And then once you go into a true, like whether it just be a cover jig, flipping pitching jig, or a football head, I kind of just slow down. I don't really even fish a football head nearly as fast. So I think what some guys do, I probably need to start doing that a little more. But once I go on to like a true, and the flipping pitching jigs are honestly probably the best shape. Like the Arky style is probably what I like better than any jig made. Just because I feel it can, in like probably a 3/8 ounce is probably all you need for the no deeper water than I fish. This is like a half ounce, but that style of jig, just you can, depending on what the actual skirt and trailer you pick to use, you can kind of do everything with that jig right there. I can creep it along the bottom, I can throw it into cover, I can jig it up and down, I can swim it slowly. Like, there's nothing you really can't do with those. A few different sizes. stick with that style. I mean, this one's, they have it as a swim jig, but you can honestly, other than into where it's going to get caught, you can still, you know, fish it slow or faster, but I feel these are limited. This one's a little better, but it's still limited to how, see how it's going to, you know, more lay down, more apt to get caught up. Since it's pointed, this has got a little bit of a point to it, but it's not, it's kind of still rounded. I don't know, I like those better than any of them over any of these swimming or standard round ball or football. That close to an Arky style, not a true Arky style exactly, but close. Sorry guys, I gotta get out of here. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned. Watch the video that drops tomorrow, and then I'm gonna try to put together a few more through the week. I've been putting almost a video out a day. That's I've still got a few more days of footage to get caught up on, and that's kind of one of the reasons we just got out yesterday. I could have went again, but we basically started at daylight, set out for about a half hour, 40 minutes for first front to come through, got out for another 2 or 3 hours, and then started again. We should have waited, because that would have been our next window. We should have waited another hour, and then probably could have fished the majority of the day. But we were kind of getting wet, and it was kind of like, okay, we just called it. And I was going to go again either Saturday night for a few hours or today, but today was just a dreary, colder, never knew when it was or wasn't going to rain. Definitely had a few hours windows here and there. I probably could have got out, but I just didn't mess with it. So I edited that video you're going to see tomorrow, got it done, so I managed to get caught up on some stuff, but yeah. And worked on a few more, got a few more other baits and a few more things going, rod and reel stuff. Anyway, stay tuned, a lot more coming. Get out, go bass bonsai, but thank you very much for watching.